It is the mid-19th century, and the world is buzzing with the Industrial Revolution. Factories are being built all around us. Railway networks are expanding, and innovations like the steam engine are forever changing how goods are made and moved. And during all this growth, in a small, seemingly unremarkable cabin in Hydesville, New York, something insane and extraordinary is about to happen. Two young sisters, Kate and Maggie Fox, are about to kickstart a movement that will sweep across continents and forever change the way we view the afterlife. Welcome back, friend, to Hometown History. In today's episode, we're going to see how a prank led to the birth of a whole new spiritual movement, giving rise to mediums and séances all around America. Stay with me here. I know this sounds odd, but the Fox sisters are credited with pioneering the idea that you can speak to the dead, and today we'll see how and why. On December 11th, 1847, John and Margaret Fox moved into a new house along with their daughters, Margaretta, Maggie Fox, and Catherine, Kate Fox. This house, in the small hamlet of Hydesville, around 20 miles from Rochester, New York, already had the reputation of being haunted. So naturally, Miss Fox was extra alert, jumping at every noise in the house, from banging doors to creaking timbers. And to their shock, things got pretty spooky, pretty fast. By the end of March 1848, around 4 months after they started living there, the family began hearing sounds that were just plain weird. Sometimes it sounded like someone knocking on the walls, and other times, it sounded like furniture was moving all by itself. Now, as any rational mind would, the mother tried to look for the source of these sounds, but she couldn't figure it out. And with good reason. It's because the house wasn't actually haunted. Maggie and Kate Fox were just having a little fun, playing tricks on the family to see how long it would be before their mother figured it out. So basically, all of this started as a prank. Maggie and Kate wanting to puzzle their family, building up on the haunted reputation of the house. They would tie an apple to a string and bounce it on the floor to make a mysterious knocking sound. Or sometimes, they just let the apple drop to keep their mom guessing. It was all supposed to be harmless fun, but it didn't stay that way. On the night of March 31st, they decided to take their pranks up a notch. When the strange noises started up again, Kate was right next to her mother, and she pretended she was seeing a spirit before her. She challenged the spirit to copy the snaps of her fingers, and it did, or so they made it seem. Their mother was so baffled by this that naturally, she shared this bizarre incident with her neighbors. Now, the situation had clearly escalated, and they both thought that confessing would get them into trouble with their parents and their preacher. So they went ahead with the ruse, and with that, they were able to convince their parents and neighbors that they could communicate with the spirit using knocks to answer yes or no questions. They told everyone that the spirit was called Mr. Slipfoot, which was a nickname for the devil. Apparently, Maggie had this so-called conversation in front of them, trying to communicate with Mr. Slipfoot. She asked it to tell her how many children were in the house, and it answered with 6 raps, which is a banging sound, which was right. She then asked if she was, in fact, speaking to a spirit. and it rapped twice for yes. She then asked if a spirit had once been injured in their farmhouse, and it rapped twice again. This simple prank would stay with them for much longer than expected. Once they saw they were able to convince their parents of something like that, their confidence grew. And if you are confused as to how two kids were able to convince so many people of something like this, you're right. It is a little unlikely. But back in those days, people were superstitious and took things like this very seriously. So pretty much everyone believed the girls, without a doubt. And what started as a bit of fun soon turned pretty dark. The girls said the noises were from a spirit named Charles B. Rosna, a peddler who was supposedly murdered and buried in their cellar. Their neighbors were completely convinced a murder had happened in the house, and out of fear, decided to take matters into their own hands. They went over the whole town and nearby towns to get the names of people who formerly lived in the Fox house. They finally found a man named Bell, and with no evidence and no thought, accused him of being the murderer of the spirit in the house. This caused Bell to be shunned by his own community, and as you can guess, impacted his daily life forever. It only shows how powerful and sometimes harmful rumors and superstitions can be. Once the neighbors were convinced, word spread out fast, and soon the Fox sisters found themselves at the center of a great amount of attention. It wasn't long before people from all over started showing up, wanting to see what all the fuss was about. Maggie and Kate Fox quickly became the talk of the town, but with all that attention came some skepticism. Not everyone was convinced. Some people started whispering that maybe the sisters were just playing tricks on everyone. But at the same time, some people thought something more spooky was at play, and even started tossing around the word witchcraft. Things got so tense that the local church didn't want anything to do with them anymore. So considering the gravity of the situation, the Fox parents thought it best to get the girls out of the spotlight for a while. So they sent them off to stay with their older siblings out of town. Maggie went to stay with her brother David, and Kate ended up with their sister, Leah. Now this was the turning point in their story, because the introduction of Leah into this mix took things up a notch. Leah, the ever-curious one, got Kate to admit that there was no reality to all that chaos, and that it was all an elaborate ruse. And that is when Leah saw a golden opportunity, an opportunity to capitalize on the attention her sisters were getting. She started dreaming up plans to take their act to the next level. Now Rochester was buzzing with many different types of forward-thinking ideas, with people fighting for big changes like ending slavery and getting women the right to vote. At the time, the town was also full of people who were interested in some unusual or unconventional religious ideas. Andrew Jackson Davis had just written a book saying the dead could talk to the living, something that Kate and Maggie Fox had claimed. And now, exactly the sort of thing Leah was interested in. Isaac and Amy Post, two friends of Leah's, who were deeply involved in the fight to end slavery and get women the right to vote, were dealing with the loss of their own children at this time. You can imagine how heartbroken and grief-stricken parents might try anything to see or hear their children again. So of course, they were pulled into the idea of talking to spirits. At first, they weren't sure what to make of it all. But after seeing the sisters in action, they became believers. And just like that, Isaac and Amy Post started spreading the words about the sisters' ability to talk to the dead. And before you knew it, they had grabbed attention once again. And now, everyone wanted a séance. The entire situation laid the foundation for what would become the Spiritualist movement, which was all about believing in life after death and communicating with spirits. Leah was all in, telling her sisters they were actually chosen to deliver messages from the spirit world. Kate was on board, but she had her doubts. She couldn't shake the feeling that maybe what they were doing wasn't right. Not that it was going to stop Leah. They had come too far to turn back, and Leah was already making plans to share their gift with even more people. Now, for money, of course. As we delve into the corridors of history, let's not forget our faithful companions, whose health is paramount. Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says that she is seeing more issues with dogs' joints, odors, and health than ever before. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to support any dog's health: their food. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Dubas Heigl Foundation, which also helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. My own journey with Badlands Pets has been enlightening. Seeing my dog thrive on Superfood Complete fills me with joy, knowing that I'm providing him with the best nutrition possible. Go to badlandsranch.com/hometown and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular priced order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/hometown today. Soon, despite Maggie's reservations, Leah announced that the spirits desired their talents to be shared with the wider public. This led to their first public demonstration at Corinthian Hall in Rochester on November 14, 1849. The audience, who was skeptical and expecting a hoax, watched as the sisters performed without a hitch. Even when local dignitaries were invited on stage to scrutinize their act, no fraud was detected, much to the crowd's frustration. It was some talent the Fox sisters showed. Tensions peaked on the final night, leading to a near riot, with fireworks thrown and the sisters needing a secretive exit. But that wasn't so much of a disaster for the Fox sisters. In fact, it launched them to fame. The buzz around their act spread from local gossip to the pages of New York's dailies, making them stars. Their tour across New York and then down to the city introduced them to the literary elite and skeptics alike, all curious about their séances. Even those initially critical were swayed, with some papers retracting their accusations of fraud. As spiritualism took off, inspired by the Fox sisters, mediums emerged everywhere, hosting séances and displaying more elaborate phenomena. Yet despite the competition, the Fox sisters remained the most prominent figures in this movement. And they continued touring, drawing the attention of notable figures, including Elisha Kane, a young doctor and Arctic explorer. Despite his initial skepticism and the controversy surrounding their potential union, formed a significant relationship with Maggie. But he knew the truth, or rather suspected it, and urged that she gave up the, quote, life of dreary sameness and suspected deceit, which she did, But things were about to turn ugly for the Fox sisters. 5 years later, after Cain's death, Maggie was left unsupported by his family and addicted to alcohol. With her overwhelming amount of grief, she returned to her roots. By this time, call it guilt or anger or depression, Kate had also turned to alcohol to numb her feelings. Soon enough, the sisters' drinking problems became increasingly problematic, leading to interventions and eventually a public confession of fraud. In 1888, at the New York Academy of Music, Maggie exposed the mechanics of their raps, denouncing spiritualism and implicating Leah in the deceit. And with that came a rather complex fallout. Some people saw it as the end of spiritualism, while others split into factions, either denying the sisters' genuineness or accusing them of spite against Leah. Yet their legacy in spiritualism continued, with believers in skepticism continuing to debate their authenticity long after their deaths. One such debate started in 1904, and some bones were found in the cellar of the Fox family home in Hydesville, New York, just as Kate and Maggie had claimed during their very first acts. Soon enough, this discovery reignited interest and speculation about the Fox sisters' claim of communicating with spirits, particularly the spirit they referred to as Mr. Splitfoot. But upon examination, the bones were determined to be a mixture of human and animal remains, and there were no conclusive evidence to support the story of the murdered peddler. So it was more of a curious footnote in the story of the Fox sisters. The story of the Fox sisters, marked by fame, scandal, and sorrow, shows the complex interplay of belief, skepticism, and the desire for connection beyond the veil. Yet the only fact that we can be certain of is the full reality of the Fox sisters, which they admitted to themselves. Whatever the case, there's no denying that the Fox sisters opened the door to a new world of spiritual exploration, something that continues to fascinate us to this day. Thank you for listening to Hometown History, and be sure to follow along for more stories from the past.